Welcome back, everybody, to another Digital Gate Studios production. Jacob's in house. Let's
What's
go.
up, everybody?
Here we go. More BT-11 goodness. This one is something that I think originally you were going to build.
Oh, yeah.
And then I pulled a ton of Renas, and so I was like, I have to build this.
I was really excited for this deck. I mean, I love Ulforce. He's just such a good design.
Yeah.
And I mean, the deck just looks so fun. I'm probably still going to build it, but I didn't get nearly as much pulled as you did. So
yeah. And this is one of the decks that like I built, and I was just like, this is way too much fun. Just reading the cards before I even got to play test it, I was like, this does that, and then this. Yeah, we'll get into it.
Seeing it in action, it just looks insane.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into it. So we're going to start with eggs. We're going to go with 4 of the Wanyamons. You could go either way with this. I do run 5 eggs, so I'll just throw the 5th one down. We do run the BT-11, and I've seen lists that run 4 and 1 the other way. But when we get to the option card and a couple of the other things in the deck, you really want the draw on this because, spoiler, I don't run the blue memory boost because the options tend to get bottom decked with all the search that doesn't grab options. So I do run the Wanyamon, which is nice because when you digivolve onto it with level 3, there's no requirement for it to be anything other than for you to have a blue tamer for it to draw. So if you need an out or you need a certain card and you want to get that one more draw, you can always swing with a rookie that has that.
How often do you use all 5 eggs?
Very rarely. Very, very rarely.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the 3s. So these are all going to be VMons.
Classic.
Yeah, so we're going to run, we're going tribal, right? So we're going to go EX1 VMon. I need to get more of the Tamer pack to our Tamer. Yeah, they're so good. This one's really good. Once again, gains you a memory when you play, or when you unsuspend. Yeah, so good.
I mean, it was an Imperial list for a very long time as well. I mean, just the memory you get out of it's more than you'd expect. Cause
if you could run 8 of these, you would run 8 of these.
I mean, this list consistently.
Yeah. So going back, so the other couple lists I looked at played the Gabumon from EX1 that also grabs Tamers.
Okay.
But I found in this deck there's plenty of things that grab Tamers and you draw a lot. So when I ran that in my first couple builds, I would find myself bottom decking a lot of like the level 5s because you only run so many level 5s and level 4s in this deck. So you end up bottom decking pieces you need to actually get to, or the Ulforce itself, right?
Yeah,
so you're only
attack enough times, you go through the whole deck, right?
Yeah, right, but you really don't attack that much unless you're at the Ulforce level. So I really like this VMon better because it allows you to do a lot of fun. And then jumping into another VMon, we're running the BT-2, so going old school. I have my Grand Prix on the way. Ordered those, but we had to dig deep into the archive to get this guy. So when you unsuspend in your main phase, you draw a card. So
same thing. One's game memory, one's draw.
Yeah,
like it.
Very, very good. So we're going consistency there, and then we have the new one. The new one is a fantastic card for this deck. It is terrifying though to digivolve this because you want to use the on play so much. So it's always kind of a battle. Like you want to draw these 8. You want to have one of each on your first turn. You want to have either one of these 4 and one of these 8. It's really hard because you really don't want to hard play this without having a big stack in your raising area because that's where you want to build your Ulforce is in raising. Wait till you get to level 5, spend the level 5, and then do your Ulforce. But this grabs you so many pieces. This lets you grab a Veedramon and a Tamer.
Don't you just love how they always do that, though? It's the same thing with, like, Blackmore and whatnot. It's like you always have the search rookies, but you never want to digivolve unless you have to.
Such a good card. And then we're jumping into our level 4s. So the level 4s in this are interesting, to say the least, because you think you want to go full tribal and just run all Veedramons, but most of the Veedramons aren't very good. So you do run 4 of...
power creeped out for sure.
Yeah. So you run 4 of the new one. Because the new one's amazing, because it has the inheritable when you play a blue tamer, gain a memory. Spoiler alert, we're playing a lot of blue tamers by effect in this deck. Also, when you play a blue tamer, and this is just on the board, you get to draw a card. So we have some 2-cost tamers that are really cool to play. You can play it, gain a memory, so you play it for 1, draw a card. Really cool with that inheritable and that effect when it's on the field. And that's all the Veedramons we play. That's it. So we don't play the BT, what is it, the 1.01 because it's a 3-cost digivolve. It only gives you 1K as an inheritable. So there's really not a lot of good Veedramons. So we're jumping into Leomons because we run Jerry. We haven't got there yet, but we'll just tell you right now we run Jerry. So, and I think that that's probably the most common build for this deck is to run the Jerrys that you play for free with the Ulforce. So we run 4 of the Leomons and the blocker, the EX2. This thing is fantastic because it just gives you that layer of protection, because what you're trying to do is kind of stall until you have all your pieces in the raising to build your Ulforce and do your big like OTK swing. This is really good. So I found that this is also good to digivolve. Like if you do have to hard play the Vmon, the Searcher, if it lives for the next turn, you can digivolve it for 2 into this awesome Leomon that when it dies, it gives you memory and draws you a card. So it's really good for finding pieces that way. Like I said, the first version of this I built ran only this Leomon with 4 of the Jerrys. And I found that like you're always kind of needing, you got the Jerrys more than you got the Leomons. So I did add 1 of the BT-1 Leomon, which is another on deletion. This is a purple card, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Essentially. So I added 1 just to make it a little more consistent. So I have more Leomons than I do Jerrys. So I typically always have a Leomon in hand when I have a Jerry in hand.
I love how consistent in this game the number 5 is, because it's like a playset's 4, right? They do that for a reason, so you can't be that consistent. But you can never find a 5th card just as a 1-of that does almost the same thing.
It's so close. Yeah, it still gains you 2 memory, doesn't draw a card, and it's not a blocker. But it's still nice to be able to play that for free. And then if you need 2 memory, like these are your memory boosts in this deck. Like I don't use memory boost because I have Leomons.
Right.
If you ever, there's so many times when I've played this deck that I just swing it into a bigger body because I want to gain memory and draw a card, or just gain memory, because I didn't spend anything to play these.
Crack the Leomon gain too.
Yeah, crack the Leomon. Yeah, exactly. I love it. I'm going to use that from now on.
Jeff shown us a few times how good these cards can be.
Yeah. So we have 2 more level 4s, and you guys know with this deck you run a lot of Tamers, right? So we got a lot of gotcha cards to win. So we're going to run 2 of the Kumamons. I'm not going to be Team Jeff and run Lobos just because I like the artwork. This card is way more useful.
Kumamon's getting a better art anyway.
It's really good. And also, like, same thing, like, if you have the Vmon out because you hard played it to search, you can still digivolve into 2 and strip a source if you need to do that, if they don't have the X antibody option. But it's still a really good card for that.
2's usually enough for hybrids. I know there's a lot of Tamers in this deck.
There are, it's just, you need room. I mean, there's not a lot of room in this deck. It was really hard for me to find room and keep it consistent. I think that this is kind of where I landed. And I've had a lot of fun, a lot of success testing this, because the first list I said, or like I ran, was only 6 level 5s. I just found myself having a hard time finding it, especially when I was Tamer searching with the Goblinmon and stuff. I would throw these 5s at the bottom of my deck and just be like, never seeing that again. This Ulforceveedramon is so good in this deck because with the Ulforce, you don't want to digivolve into the Ulforce on an unsuspended body, right?
Right.
But you don't necessarily want to swing with a level 5 and risk it dying. So I think that, Bandai was big brained and they engineered this card. So this thing is awesome because when it's on the field, all you have to do is suspend it, and you get to search the top 3 cards of your deck and grab all the Tamers that you get on that. It's so good. So it allows you to digivolve into that Ulforce onto a suspended body, but not risk dying by swinging to get it to that suspended state. So very good card there. And this was a 2 of, but I found a way to make it a 3 of to get my 5s more consistent, because this is a very good win con in the deck. You run 3 of the starter deck 8 Ulforceveedramons. Very good. It has jamming, so you do have to swing with it to suspend it, but you have a little bit less risk, right? Because you're swinging with jamming. Right? So it's a little bit better. But this is the one that's amazing for the multi-swing OTK Ulforce deck, because it gives you security attack +1, because you always have more than 8 cards in your hand. With all the draw, especially with all the Tamers that give draw, everything else, you're always going to have more than 8 cards. So, and if you can swing with multiple times, 2 checks at a time, you're just chunking stuff away. So that's it for 5s. We just run the 7 level 5s, which that's all the room there is in this deck, folks. If you can find another one, you're going to take from something else to get there. It's really hard. So we're going to run 4 of the best boy in blue. the Ulforce. No spoilers there. This is it's the staple for the deck. It just goes ham. It just keeps unsuspending, playing tamers, unsuspending, playing tamers. Bottom decks, all you have to have is 4 tamers on the field, and you can return to hand to level 7.
Oh yeah, I put these in my blue hybrids list, and I mean I've been bouncing. I bounced Wargray the other day.
Yeah, I bounced yesterday at locals. I bounced an Ordine back to hand. Yeah,
just don't bounce that effects.
Yeah, super good.
Because you can doesn't mean you should.
So I had a hard time because, like I said, trying to stay consistent in this deck. Running 4 level 6s was good, but when you ended up bottom decking them or you saw them in security, you were like, man, am I ever going to find that? So I wanted to find a good companion level 6 for this Ulforce, so I started kind of digging, right? And so I went through, what was it? I went through the starter deck Ulforce, and I was like, And then I was like, okay, I'll run one of the original Ulforce, but it's like that doesn't have a when digivolving effect, so it doesn't pair very well with Arena. And then looking through my promo cards, what was it, pre-release from like BT-5 or 6? It was a card that like we were like, that's never going to be used.
Yep.
But in
we
this
all
deck,
read it and set it aside and said, what is this?
The whole pack of 3, right? Because we got the 0, the 0,
it wasn't
and
even
then
a good art.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the foiling on the winner one was okay. But Ulforceveedramon 0. I know you're going to look at that and be like, what does that card do? I cannot. What is that?
No one's ever played this.
No one's ever played this card. But if you look at the when digivolving effect, so we'll just jump down to the arena because you have to see the arena to appreciate what this card does. This is a late game win con. So when this card digivolves, it returns 3 cards to the bottom of the deck from your trash. So it's very good anti-mill, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're playing against cards that rely on your opponent.
Too,
yeah.
So if they're playing like a Venge Kid or something.
Yeah, you can put your options back in your deck.
Down there.
So when digivolving, you place 3 non-digi eggs back in your deck, right? And if you do that, you get to unsuspend this and unsuspend one of your tamers, which is broken, right? Because Rena's effect is when this suspends, you can suspend her to activate the when digivolving effect, thereby returning 3 cards to your deck, unsuspending, and it lets you unsuspend a tamer. So all you need is 1 Rena on board because it's going to unsuspend the Rena too to perpetually just keep swinging, suspending, return 3. So as long as you have enough cards in your trash, you can perpetually do this with just 1 Rena on board.
I mean, it reminds me of like D Reaper, it's swing, how many searchers can I tuck 2 at a time?
Exactly. So obviously, like, it's a one-of because it's a late game con.
Right.
If this is something that you pull out, or if you can build a second stack, it's fun when you have enough pieces in your trash. Like if they keep Wyvern's breathing or doing something. Because the other good thing about Rena is that she gives any of your Veedramons and stuff blocker and evade. Right. So the big thing is when you swing, you never want to stay suspended. So So you always want to kind of do your reboot thing with the Ulforces, even the Ulforce 0, and on your opponent's turn, following that, you want to make sure you're unsuspended, so you're blocker and you have evade, because they're going to do some nasty stuff and try and delete you. And outside of DP reduction, you can pretty much just evade and survive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing with a lot of that. I mean, especially with that particular one, is because you evade, you suspend, triggers it again, right?
Yeah.
And then because of how it happens when it suspends, it unsuspends to that before the damage of it goes through.
Yes.
So even if they flip over a Gaia Force, you can evade it, restand using the eggs.
Yeah.
But the only thing you can't deal with is the DP reduction.
Right. So that's the good thing about the next tamer in this deck is that, so like you said, when you swing, if you hit something, you swing, you unsuspend before the check goes through. If you have like a kill spell or something that hits you, you just evade. So you don't get to swing again, but that's why we play 4 of these, because these are, if you have 2 memory, all you have to do is drop a Taikamiya for 2, re-unsuspend, and then you can start the process all over again.
Oh, yeah.
So it's super protective, it's super fun. It's a good way to pass turn and resuspend your Ulforce after, and give them 1, essentially, a lot of times. Memory choke them. And also, I mean, it just draws you a ton of cards. As long as you have a Veedramon, any of these, so Veedramon, if you have any of these on the field, all you have to do is suspend this 2-cost tamer and you get to draw a card.
And I mean, who doesn't like drawing cards?
Yeah, there's so many times where you have a ton of these on the board. And the arena lets you just keep unsuspending the Ulforce by playing Tamers, and these are just cool to have on the board because there's a lot of times where you want your Ulforce to be bigger. So instead of drawing a card, you can choose to just add 1 KDP. And so if your Ulforce is the only thing on the field and they have a Black War Grey and they decide they want to redirect the attack, I mean, all you have to do is make your Ulforce bigger than that because they don't have battle prevention, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to discourage them from wanting to, redirect this 14, 15, 16K attack into their Black War Grey that's only like 12 or 13 on your turn. So it's super. And then we're jumping into the Jerry because the Jerry is another fun little win con in this deck. The Jerry is amazing because it also helps you draw a ton of cards. So if you don't know, the Jerry on play plays any of these 5 Leomons for free, which is a 6 cost and a 5 cost. One's blocker, and they both gain a ton of memory. So it's really, really cool. It's not a bad, like, turn 1 to drop a Jerry and then drop the blocker Leomon, The best part about Jerry, I think, outside of that, is the fact that she just draws you a ton of cards. So if you don't know what Jerry does, whenever your opponent attacks on their turn, you can just suspend your Jerry and draw a card. And having these out on the board for free and not having to spend the 4 to play them with the Ulforce is super cool. It just throws blockers out, which slows your opponent down. And it always makes Death X pay for being Death X. You play a lot of Tamers in this, and so you're like, oh yeah, Death X destroys. Well, kind of. Like a lot of times, Death X, they'll play it for free because you have so many Tamers out, which is fine because all it does is, it just strips off your Ulforce, and then you just suspend your level 5 or you swing with jamming to make it suspended again, and then you just go nuts. And also, like when it kills all the Leomons, even though they're digivolving into it for free, you're still going to gain memory off all the Leomons that die.
Yeah, I imagine there's those times too where you're like on the the new Ulforce and they strip it off and you just go thanks, and then you go into Ulforce 0.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I don't have to make a new stack.
Thanks for putting all that stuff in my trash. Now I can just swing a bunch of times. And then we run 2 of the 4-cost Davis. I was gonna try and mix this up and play the Joe and Sora, but this thing has pulled me my Ulforces on multiple occasions. It also helps you just grab whatever piece you need.
I mean, there's a reason everyone plays Davis.
Yeah. And with a lot of these inheritables, you get to play Davis for like 2 or 3, which is broken.
Or even free.
Or even free, exactly, with the other stuff. So very cool. You kind of want to be set to 3. That's kind of a early on thing because you want to be able to, if you have a 4, you want to be able to go into your 5 and then do the win suspending or swing with it and then do your Ulforce and then gain all your memory back. So I got 1 card left. This is inspired by you, my friend. This card is broken with this deck because when I saw High Speed Plugin, every time I think of it, all I thought of was jamming. Like jamming, cool. Let's give it jamming for 2, whatever. What if they have a blocker? I didn't realize, I forgot that this makes...
Yeah, I think I was the only one who knew that.
Yeah, this guy over here plays Sakuya like crazy. Yeah, so he knows what all the plugins do. And a lot of people look past this card. Not only is it great, just to have, it's also really good in security because it draws you a card and you add this to hand. So you have it in your arsenal.
Anything that goes to hand out of security is just an easy one of, and makes a huge difference way more consistently than you'd think. That's why HPD is restricted and still played so heavily.
Yeah.
Security add to hand. Same with Calling from Darkness.
Yeah. Well, this is it, guys. I mean, if you can get this in your hand, keep it in your hand. But it's also nice to be able to return it to your deck with the Ulforceveedramon 0. But it's like, I only run 1 option because there's so much search in this deck there's a lot of draw too, so you're probably going to get it. But there's so much search that relies on being either Vmons or Veedramons, Hamers, Blue Digimon, that you will mill over this a bunch of times maybe. So it's really good to just have the 1-of option in your deck. I tried the blue memory boost. If you're going to do the blue memory boost, you're going to have to take from somewhere else, right? So it's hard to take from somewhere else and be consistent by having the levels that you need when you need them.
Right, because you're just, and at that point you have to just cut out Tamers, and that's not what you want to do with
this.
You
do not want to cut out Tamers. There's been so many games where I've had literally all of these Tamers out. Every single one. Too. Yeah, and it's not a terrible thing. But
paid for the whole deck, I'm going to use the whole deck.
Exactly. So this is it, guys. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think of the deck in the comments. If you play a different version, like without the Leomons, I want to see your list because I think the Leomons is the best version, but I'm always open to opinion because you can do so much. There's so many sets in this game, and this deck can just go crazy. But we'll see you next time, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.